Oh, hello there. Thanks for stopping by. It means a lot that you clicked on this video. Out of the many videos that you could have chosen, you came to this one. I really appreciate that. If you haven't noticed from the title, this is a story about the time that I almost died. I hope you enjoy. This was a while ago, about 2007, back when I was still in early high school. It was about 5 days before Christmas. Now, I was one of those younger brothers who constantly pestered and wanted attention. It's like, I know, it's like one of those like little itty bitty little dogs kind of a thing that you just kind of want to kick. That was me growing up. And just particularly to my older brother, who I don't know why I would do it, but because it's like, I know that he was constantly just like frustrated and never really wanted to be around me. And I just latched on to him, kind of like little siblings do. So my older brother, during this particular day, was out in the backyard with his friend, and they were sledding down the back hill. Now the back hill, to lay it out and sort of describe it for you, was a hill. I fucking God, I'm an idiot. So at the bottom of this hill, let me describe the bottom, that'll make sense. There's two trees. They're fairly decently spaced so that like you could just sort of go down in. And the way the water had sort of like blown through after rain and everything else, it had created a dip. What the fuck? Neighbors. It had created a divot. See, I'm doing this at like the middle of the day. I figured everybody would be out for work. Apparently not. Just give it a second. So the rain wore up. Wow. So the rain rushing through created a divot, kind of a thing, that eventually eroded away enough that it became sort of this natural ramp. So my brother and his friend are just both just shooting down this hill, just right after each other, kind of a thing. They'd hit the bottom and they'd get like, I don't know, 2 inches of air, kind of a thing. But when you're like in the moment, it feels like it's just so much air, and then just crash into the snowbank at the bottom. After the two trees, you've got the tree, divot, tree, sprinklers, and a thorn bush right at the very end. It's like big old thorn bushes, like 5 feet across. It was not fun. So I go outside. I like just rush out. So I rush out. I'm like, hey, mom says you need to let me play. So let me hop on. Let me have some turns. So I get on the sled and they eventually just like, they're like, fine, go. They get on the sled and they start like pushing me down. And it's amazing. You like hit the bottom of that hill, the adrenaline rush, you just feel yourself, your stomach just rises, then you slam into the snow. So after going a few rounds, we eventually get back up to the top of the hill and we're like, what if we made it bigger? So we rush down to the bottom of the hill, we start packing snow in, right towards the end, the lift off of the ramp, and we sort of create this wedge to make the ramp a little bit bigger. We go off a few more times and we're like, give us maybe another inch and a half of air. And we're just like, this is so cool! We gotta do this again. We gotta go faster. If we go faster, we can get a higher jump. We can go farther. So we're like, okay, what do we do? How do we make ourselves go faster? And then in typical idiot fashion, we're like, human slingshot. So what we do is we rush back into the garage. We go like searching through all this stuff. We're like throwing fishing rods out of the way. We're throwing bikes out of the way until we eventually find a rope. So we grab the rope, we run in the back. We're like, all right, here we go. You grab one end of the rope, we grab the other end of the rope. Person on the slide, they're gonna sit in the middle. They're just gonna hold on for dear life, kind of a thing. You're just gonna run back and slingshot them down the hill. And so we all get like super into the idea. And so we go a few rounds. We managed to get my older brother onto the sled. And this is like one of those Captain America disc sleds kind of a thing. So you sit on it and it has the potential of just like spinning, going all over the place. Our previous sledding had managed to carve this sort of like channel. So we're always like certain that we're going to keep on the right track. We'd always hit that jump. So we wedge, pull, my brother's friend and I, we sit there and we just rip it. And he goes shooting down this hill, hits the end of it, and he just skips right over the snow mountain that we had been like constantly crashing into, just right over the top of it. And we just freak out. It was the craziest thing. We're like, that was like a foot of air, which looking back, it obviously just sounds like the dumbest thing. I was like, oh, wow, a foot, that's great. You seen Olympics? They go like 50 feet. They travel. So then eventually we get my brother's friend on, Don, and we're just like, wha-bam! Send him shooting. He clears it too. We're like, okay, we have a system. We know what we're doing. We have a plan. So I'm like, it's my turn. Let's go. This is me now. I'm lighter. You're gonna launch me. I'm gonna go over the fence into the backfields. So we get over, I get down. I'm sitting on this. I'm like ready to go. I'm like, okay, grab it. Let's do this. Pull it. And so my brother and his friend, they get ready. I mean, they are like batters at the mound holding this rope. They got to just like flapping around everywhere. And it's just like holding on to the center. I'm like, let's go. It's like revving an engine. It was great. I'm like heart pumping, adrenaline going. I was like, we're totally ready for this. Let's do it. And so they go. And as they like hit the point where they're whipping it, my brother lets go. If you're familiar with physics, let me give you a play-by-play of what happens when you have something where it's in a line, trajectory straight. When it lets go, it's like a ball on the end of a string. It just flips you off into some random direction within an arc. Got to clarify that. I'm holding on. I am said ball. They whip it. My brother's friend, he's holding on to this rope, and he flicks it, and he's bracing himself because he has to whip it. He doesn't want to go flying down the hill. So he flicks it, and he braces himself, digs his heels in, holds on tight, and sort of pulls the rope. I go shooting off into the wrong direction. I go coasting. Wasn't by very far because eventually, like, I'm backwards at this point, and I let go at a panic. But I'm still like 25 degrees off course, which is all you need for everything to go wrong. The trees. Tree here, tree here. We were constantly shooting right down Center Street, center of the lane, every time, rapid fire. I'm up here on the top of the hill, 25 degrees. As you get further and further away from a center point, that degree becomes massive. In between the thorn bush and the tree, there were sprinklers. So my brother lets go. Don flicks me off in the wrong direction. And I'm shooting down this hill on a slide, Captain America style, backwards. At the back of our hill, not well taken care of. We'd been trying to plant grass like multiple years in a row. Never really took. The backyard is also like super rocky. And there was this massive rock that was just sort of like pointed out a little bit, just sticking out of the ground. And the sled just hits that and bounces. Next thing I know, I'm just staring at the sky, just like off the sled, off everything, just staring up like, oh no. I just instantly knew this was gonna suck. Whatever was about to happen was gonna be terrible. So I hit the ground, and I just started going head over heels, just backwards rolling. Now, to give you something of an example, there was the first one, the first sprinkler. This was one we had installed in personally just because the people that had built the house, laid everything out, were absolute insane. So we installed one pipe, and it was just regular pipe, sprinkler head, normal. Something you would expect to see everywhere. Rolling backwards, crushed through this sprinkler that I was one of those, me and my father had personally installed. Obliterated it. We could not find it afterwards. We couldn't find the pipe, we couldn't find the sprinkler. The sprinkler top just gone. Everything gone. We could not find it afterwards. We had to buy and reinstall all sorts of things after that. Now the sprinkler system from before still existed there. Now it came out of the ground very much similar to the way we had installed it. And I don't know what they were thinking because they were like, oh, well, maybe it's gonna wobble around. You're not gonna get even spray or something. It's just gonna be like. So in order to stabilize it, they stuck it in a cinder block. So now you got the cinder block, sprinkler coming out of it, and they filled the inside of it cement. So now you have this like faceted, dug into the ground, just pipe of rock connected to a broken sprinkler that didn't even connect to the main line. No idea what they were thinking. So we're like, I go crashing through the first one and roll right back in to the corner of the second one. Just bam, smash my head into it. I with like the power of the Hulk just slapping somebody. The only problem is I am not the Hulk. I am a fragile little meat monster. Slammed right into the corner. Fortunately though, instead of being like slamming an egg against some hard thing, my skull didn't just obliterate into my brain. Instead, I wound up semi-scalping myself. Horrible image. So I slam into the cinder block. Part of my head just like splits out. My neck's cranked at this like weird 90-degree angle, and I get rendered unconscious. I'm sitting there just neck cranked at this like crazy direction, head just like sort of smashed up against the cinder block, the edge, the corner, the three angles, the direct point corner of this. Glassy-eyed, staring off into the infinite. I'm just like, oh, broken. And there's just this halo of gore that's forming. This next bit, this is what it was like from my brother and his friend's perspective. My older brother has Tourette's. For those of you who are familiar with Tourette's, I don't know how to scientifically explain it. Essentially, people that have these like uncontrollable urges or impulses to make noise or do certain actions or things like that where they just can't control it. They're called tics. Some people have these like physical tics where they'll jerk or something and they'll sort of make these motions or bounce in a spot. They'll shift or things like that. Those are physical tics. My older brother mostly did physical tics. There are those who then do verbal tics. These are kind of the ones that like media and everything kind of likes to jump on, kind of a thing. You'll constantly hear like, oh, this person has Tourette's. So he like constantly runs around just like spewing profanities just at random points in time.
When we multiply a negative number by another negative...
Shit! Asshole! Excuse me?
It's not everybody. Not everybody does that. My older brother also did verbal tics. And so he ranged from barking, it was like crazy, to just like random like noises and things like that. Occasionally, though, I later found out that when he eventually like started breaking into the territory of cursing, usually it was just like minor things like shit or things like that. So just like in the tiers of, I guess, swear words and cuss words, he tended to stay at the bottom. But it's like with a lot of people with Tourette's, it's like the more stimulated they get, I guess would be the word. The more stimulated they get, the more it sort of comes out. The more excited they get, the more it comes out. So with my older brother, during this situation, it was like, this is probably the most stimulating situation he's ever been in. He's staring at his younger brother, who's currently got his neck cranked at a crazy angle, eyes wide open, not moving, doesn't look like he's breathing, with this massive, like, ever-spreading pool of blood around his head kind of a thing. He was convinced he had killed me at this point. And so, pushed to that limit, he began cursing in words that I, at the time, didn't even know of. And so, he's sitting there and he's just like, damn it, oh my god, mom's gonna kill me, and just like, he's freaking out to the max kind of a thing. And so he eventually like takes off, he starts running, and it's about this point that I'm like semi coming to. And so I'm sitting there, just sort of cranked out, unconscious, and I start coming to, and I can't feel any of my body kind of a thing. I can't see, it's still dark, I can't feel anything. The only thing I start hearing is like from far off distance, it's like ringing, and then it sounds like everybody's just like in a cave super far away. And all I hear is like, as I start coming to, it's just like, what is going on? I'm just in the darkness. I'm just like, what is happening? And I just hear from far away, it's like, oh, fuck, shit. Mom's gonna kill me. And then, followed by a door slamming, and I'm just like, what? And it's at this point, it's like everything kind of like dissipates for me, and I go unconscious again. Eventually, I start to wake back up again. And this is like the second time waking up, I guess. And so it like comes to very much similar to the last time, where it's like, I don't feel anything, I don't see anything, I don't hear anything, I'm just suddenly conscious. Which is a really weird sensation when you're like, you're there, but there's nothing else. There's no like touch, feel, hear, smell, or anything. You're just sort of like, just in the void. And it's just like, it's terrifying. It's so terrifying. But I'm sitting there and like suddenly it's like the ringing off in the distance, sort of like cave-like, as it's gradually coming back to normal. I can sort of hear outside, and like cars passing by and other things like that. And eventually, like normal hearing, then I begin to feel like my fingers and my toes, just like, okay. It's starting to come back. It's like we're fine. I was like, I have no idea what happened. At this point, I'm like super out of it. Just like, what is the hell is this weird situation? And then suddenly it's like static starts forming in my vision, kind of a thing, and my vision slowly comes back. And I'm just staring at the sky. And I like, suddenly it's like, okay, I can move again. I was like, okay, that was weird. And then suddenly I just see my brother's friend's like face right in front of me. He's like, don't move. Whatever you do, don't move. You've been in a horrible, terrible accident. And I don't believe a word that he said, kind of a thing, because I pulled the same joke on one of my younger siblings before. And so I'm just like, shut up, man. I was like, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. So I like get up and I'm like super kind of woozy, just like, woo. I'll sit up. I'm like, okay, well, we're fine. I was like, I'm good. It's like, shake it off kind of a thing. I turn and look back where I was laying. And I mean, it looks like a murder scene. There is like pool of blood that's like 5 foot by 5 foot. It's like, it looked like blood enough for like 2 people kind of a thing just sitting there. I was just like, oh God. I was like, turned back to my brother's friend. I was just like, I think I'm gonna need to go to the doctors kind of a thing. I was like, here, help me up kind of a thing. So we're like, he takes me up and I'm just like, looking down at myself and I'm like, oh, I'm wearing my favorite brown shirt at this point. So it was a hot enough day to be wearing snow pants, boots, and gloves, but not hot enough to be wearing a jacket kind of a thing. So I was just wearing a regular t-shirt. It's my favorite t-shirt. Looking down at myself, I'm like, this half is completely black. It's like soaked up so much blood. And this half is normal. So I'm now wearing this like two-tone shirt, like, oh gosh, this isn't good. And so he was like, carry me out. I'm just like sort of, I'm just kind of out of it at this point. With the biggest grin on my face. It's like, I was like, I just survived. I've apparently been through some major trauma, which was probably just, I don't know, shock kind of a thing. And so we eventually get up the stairs, just like open the door, and I just see my mom sitting there, and she's just like trying to understand what the heck my brother's talking about. He's on the floor, and he's just bawling and freaking out. He's like, he's dead, I killed him. And just like crying, which at the time I thought was hilarious. I realized that was probably just a horrifyingly traumatic experience for him. And my mom turns, looks at me, and she just about vomits. Because my mom is not good at handling blood in any capacity. And so I walk in, biggest grin on my face. I'm like, hey, I think I need a doctor. Just laughing. I probably looked like the most insane madman. Just laughing my ass off. And so my mom's just like, oh, she like starts calling my dad and just like, you need to get out here right now, kind of a thing. Because my dad works nights, so he's constantly sleeping during the day. And so my dad eventually like rushes out. He's like, okay, what's the problem? Like sees me. He's like, oh, okay, bathroom, quick. They get me into the bathroom and they're like, okay, like you gotta take your shirt off. It's like, it's covered in blood. It's like sticking to you. And so I'm like, oh, fine. Take my shirt off. And then it was like, okay, like sit in this chair, like grabs a comb, turns on the sink, starts running water. And he's just like, okay, let's get into this. Just like starts playing around with the back of my head kind of a thing. And I'm just sitting in the mirror, just, yeah, having the time of my life. I'm just watching him like slowly coming through. He's like, we just need to clean this so I can see like what the damage is, like how bad it is. And so he's like combing through, and suddenly he's just like, I'm just seeing these massive chunks of hair just like come out and just, and I was just like, I was like, is that my brains? I was like, no, it's not your brains, it's just your hair. It's like, it's your scalp. You're fine. I was like, okay, all right, it's just my scalp. Wait, what? I was just like just the weirdest state of both freak out and absolute calm. It was amazing. And so eventually, they like get me all cleaned up, and they're like, okay, you're definitely gonna need stitches, kind of a thing. And I was like, yeah, no duh. I mean, you just dropped half of my scalp in the sink. So they like rushed me off to the hospital. We got there, I eventually got stitched up, and I'm like, I was like, I feel great. And they're like, yeah, you don't want to let him sleep for like at least 12 to 24 hours. He's got a concussion kind of a thing. I was like, that explains it. And it's like, also blood loss and all that. So I eventually come home, and I've still got this biggest grin on my face kind of a thing. I haven't felt anything yet. And so I get back, and then I like go to the backyard. I was like, I want to see what the damage really was. It's like, I wasn't really in the right state of mind. It's like, I want to see how bad it was. I was like, it probably wasn't that bad. It was probably just out of it, just exaggerating the whole thing. I go out back, and I was just like, that's not good. Just this massive pool of blood, and then there's just these like, the only way I can describe blood sickles forming off of this thing. I'm just like, I'm lucky to be alive. My older brother at this point, like, eventually comes out. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm good." That is the story of how I almost died. Wild ride. Feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and drop a comment. And if you like more stuff like this, or you want to see me more often, or maybe even chat, swing on by Twitch. I stream every Saturday. You can find me at Arkham's Raven. That's my Twitch channel. I'll leave descriptions down below. But if you've enjoyed this, think about maybe like watching one of these videos, which would probably be somewhere around here, or subscribing. Just click this button over here. Hope to see you again in another video. Bye-bye. Dude, no, that was Markiplier.